quickly give an introduction to what we were doing here. So this is a graduate architecture design studio at Syracuse University, and the build that you're in is a result of a team that one of my students here, Mr. Nolan, and her collaborators did based on a role-playing scenario we did online, but outside of Second Life, as a design strategy for responding to user needs. So we took a human-centered design approach to look at a particular scenario. In this case, it was a highly fictive scenario. We're standing in a place that discovered teleportation technology, Pluto. But the students role-played characters, and in the case here of Mr. Nolan, actually built their avatar roughly based on the character and their role-playing. But what was really exciting about working in Second Life was that we were ultimately, even designing in these fictive scenarios, designing kind of real-world architectures. The fiction was a way of challenging assumptions about how architecture works in the real world. But the main goal was to see Second Life as what we would call a design-build space. The students were working ultimately at full scale because through their avatars they were able to inhabit the designs as they were making them. And so this design we're standing in, while much of it was modeled outside of Second Life, it was constantly being modeled and recorded and tested and evaluated on a regular crit. So in conventional architectural design processes, we have something called a so-called desk crit, where you meet with the students at their desk and you look at the work that they've done, whether it's digital work or physical models or drawings. But here we would have crits in the world itself. So it was really a transformative way for me to teach, thinking about architectural space in full scale. So we were meeting and I was teaching in the spaces the students were designing in Second Life.
From the student perspective, it was a very obviously different experience for us to work in a virtual space, in an online space. I think one of the major benefits was the experiential aspects. You can't really test a lot of those things in traditional architectural methods of drawing and sketching. You can't immerse yourself as easily in an imagined architecture in the way that we could here, in the sense of changing the atmosphere, lighting, kind of being able to walk around in a space or fly around was really informative in the design process, and in a positive way. And aside from that, just like learning a whole nother platform was really interesting. In Second Life, the easiest way to design is using primitives, and that's not the way we design in a lot of other softwares. So I think our group in particular took advantage of and built most of our geometry in Second Life. I don't think we did a whole lot that was imported. Most of it we tried to work with prims, so trying to figure out how to manipulate objects into what you're trying to do as opposed to draw it from scratch was an interesting challenge as well.
Rhino is I'm not sure if you're familiar, is a 3D modeling program, a complex nerves modeling program, quite common to architecture for a number of reasons: computational fabrication, building simulation. So most of our students use Rhino to do 3D modeling, because it's a nerves modeler as opposed to a master polygon modeler. There's a whole bunch of transitional stuff that also has to be part of our workflows. So you can recognize the world models here by the telltale SL plywood.
Essentially, this portal was just randomly discovered and no one knows how it works, and then we built this facility around that big shining portal out there. That's kind of the basis of this whole story. The one story that I was a part of brainstorming isn't the one that we ended up designing. We all rotated, so we had to, that was part of the learning and understanding process too, is we had to treat the other group almost like a client in a way, where we tried the best we can to understand this incredibly fictitious scenario that has been dreamed up from their point of view, and then have to kind of fill in the rest ourselves.
One of the things that's important about the work that we did here is, even though it took place in Second Life, we were using Second Life as a design platform. We weren't designing for Second Life, but in Second Life. So there's a lot of user experience conventions that would be appropriate for the immersive world of Second Life. The students were not required to design for those at all. They were designing for their other scenarios, and we were using Second Life as a collaborative, immersive design tool.